Hi, and welcome back to this Monday edition of Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Number to call if you want to join the conversation. Anything we've talked about in the program today is fair game. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. You want to weigh in on the issue of prophecy and Israel's role in future prophecy, God's plan for Israel, prophetic events. Feel free to jump on board that train. You want to weigh in your response to Eric Metaxas' comments. The church can't be the church if it's silent. Weigh in on the female anchorette in Texas showing a lot more courage than a lot of guys do. I mean, risked her career by speaking the truth about the Michael Sam display. The fact that the NFL and ESPN has backed way off of Michael Sam. They've shut down the reality show. They've shut down the Oprah. They've shut down Michael Sam. Look, you need to concentrate on playing football. The ESPN backing way off of him, saying we're not going to give him an unusual amount of attention this summer. I mean, they're all this blather about we've got so many other stories, so many other teams, so many stories, so little time, so many players, so little time, so many teams, so little time. Basically saying, look, just do not expect to see a lot of Michael Sam over the summer in ESPN. Why? Because I think they got an earful, they got two ears full in response to what they did with Michael Sam. They were hearing from people. They were hearing from families. They were hearing from dads. They were hearing from sponsors. So you want me to advertise on ESPN? You better stop showing stuff like that. Doesn't help me sell cars. Doesn't help me sell sandwiches. So I think I think there's more of us than there are of them. 888-589-8840, number to call if you want to join the conversation. You know, and another indication is the Benham brothers. We talked about this on Friday, that a bank, the SunTrust Bank, had terminated their business relationship with the Benham brothers. I mean, these are the twin brothers. They're for marriage. They're for life. They got ash-canned by HGTV. Their show canceled just in raw anti-Christian, Christophobic bigotry. They got shut down. I mean, HGTV broke every discrimination law in the book, every employment law in the book, and I hope the Benham brothers will find a way to sue HGTV for unlawful termination. You cannot discriminate against somebody on the basis of their religion. It's right there in black and white in the law. It's exactly what happened. And then SunTrust Bank said, we're going to run you out of business. We talked about this Friday. The gay Gestapo, not just content to run them off the air, they wanted to run them out of business. Well, now, SunTrust Bank, in the space of 24 hours, reversed its decision. And listen to how it's put at thedailycaller.com, Alex Pappas, after an uproar from conservative customers. Listen to that again. That's you and me, ladies and gentlemen. There are more of us than there are of them. The only reason the other side wins is that we have been intimidated into cowardly silence. Here it is, Daily Caller. After an uproar from conservative customers, SunTrust Banks announced Friday afternoon that the decision to end its relationship with real estate entrepreneurs David and Jason Benham had been reversed. So now they're back doing business with the Benham brothers. And there's only one reason. Ordinary people like you and me, conservative customers, ordinary people like you and me, made their voices heard. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, the church was the church. The church did what Eric Metaxas said the church must do. It must speak. It must refuse to be intimidated into silence, and we're seeing it. The church is speaking. That's what happened with Michael Sam. It was the church being the church, communicating to the NFL, communicating to the St. Louis Rams. It's the church being the church, communicating to SunTrust Bank that if you're going to go down that road, you can count us out. So the church being the church, and a couple of examples of a winnable war right there. Well, let's go grab some phone calls. Let's go right to the phones. We'll save the Hillary Clinton soundbite for later. Let's go to Pam in St. Louis, Oklahoma. Pam, welcome. What's on your mind?
Happy to talk to you.
Good, thanks. What's on your mind?
Well, I missed the first part of the show or something, but I wasn't sure if you were talking about the first coming of Christ when we get swept up in the air, or the second coming of Christ when he touches the ground. Because if it's the second coming of Christ when he touches the ground, is it post-trib or pre-trib or something? Because what about the prophets that prophesy in Israel for days?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I understand, Pam, that there are going to be differences of opinion about some of the end-time events, the sequence of events and all that. And I'll let people kind of sort out what they think is going to happen at the very.
I'm not arguing with you.
I understand. But I'll let people sort out for themselves what they think is going to happen after. You know, from my vantage point, the way I understand prophecy is when all Israel is saved, then Christ is going to return. He's going to come back and set up his earthly kingdom. Now, there may be some believers that believe that there are other events that are going to happen during that period of time. We're not going to know who's right till it's too late to matter. But I'm thinking, Pam, when I'm thinking of that, I'm thinking of the triumphal second coming of Christ, where every eye will see him, the trumpet will sound, we shall all be changed, and he will return as the once and coming king.
Cool,
so that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay, and the Bible says that even if we're silent, the rocks will cry out, and we should be able to cry out a lot better than a bunch of rocks, guys. Come on.
Okay, all right, Pam. So you're calling the guys out too?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
guys.
Best
opportunity to witness. I've seen this van in town several times, and she's got all of these different bumper stickers, but one of them says, "My dog is a Buddhist." And I finally found her in a parking lot, and she parked next to me, and it was a good day, and she was cheery, and I said hello, and I said, "Gosh, I wish your dog was here." And she said, "Why?" I said, "Because then I could witness to him about Christ, because I'm afraid to talk to you, but I'm sure I could talk to your dog."
How'd she react to that?
She says, "Well, all dogs are Buddhists. They live in the moment." And I said, "Well, Christ tells us to live in the moment." I mean, several times he said, "Hey, Mary's sitting here, but you should, Martha, get out of the kitchen and you should sit and spend some time with us too. It's right now. It's right here, Martha." So.
Well, and see what Pam has done here, and I appreciate the call, Pam. Thank you for that. What Pam has done, see, that woman invited Pam into the conversation when she put that bumper sticker on her car. I mean, if she puts a bumper sticker on her car, she's advertising something about what she believes. She's making a statement, and if you are going to make a statement, then you must be prepared to have somebody respond to that statement. They basically invited a discussion. They've invited a dialogue. They've invited some kind of response, and Pam took full advantage of that. Good for her. And I don't know if you heard, guys, that was Pam calling us out, calling the males in the audience out. Make your voice heard. You can do better than a bunch of rocks. All right, let's go to Pete, Saltillo, Mississippi. Pete, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mr. Fisher, God bless you. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet, sir. Thank you.
I may be preaching to the choir here, but I've had some discussions here the past few days, and it's hard for me to try to convince people that we are truly living in the midst of a double standard concerning the LGBT community and their agenda. For instance, you brought up ESPN. An announcer, if he said that he was, let's say he went on a Twitter account and said he proposed that he was in favor of traditional marriage, I doubt if his job would last more than a couple of weeks, where it would be so hip and vogue to be for same-sex marriage.
And, well, and that already happened to Craig James. Yes, Craig James got fired by Fox Sports because he said that marriage is one man, one woman.
Yes, sir. And the president of I can't think of the search engine, but it's comparable to Yahoo and Google. Fired for giving $1,000 to probably. I mean, and Christians are being persecuted. I don't think persecution is too strong a word. I mean, especially like the IRS targeting Christian conservatives.
Yes.
And so I find it hard that people won't admit that that limitation on freedom of speech is certainly being exercised by this government. And I know I'm sorry to ramble. God bless.
No, you're not rambling, Pete. And what you're reminding us is a very, very important point. And that's one of the reasons why we spend time on these issues on this program, so that when you get into a discussion, you are equipped to respond, because a lot of people are clueless about this. They depend on the mainstream media for their news. They don't know anything about what happened to that photographer in New Mexico. They don't know anything about the baker in Oregon. They don't know anything about the florist in Washington. They don't know anything about the Benham brothers. They don't know anything about Craig James. So it's important that we understand this, and so we know this. So when these things come up, we're in a position to explain to people what is being done to Christian expression in America. All right, Pete, listen, that's a great call. Thank you for that. Didn't ramble at all. I thought you were right on point. Let's go to Sean, Will Point, Texas. Sean, welcome. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having me on. I was wanting to say that I do believe Israel has a big part to play in end-time events. I believe that the Lord said in the Word he would make an everlasting covenant with them. And you always say that we are in a winnable war. I would say that the Bible definitely agrees with you, because at the end of the book we have the Lord ruling and reigning in Jerusalem for 1,000 years, and the Word says he does not change. so I figure what kind of views is he going to be putting forth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your call, Sean. And, it's like Paul said, in Romans 11 there, that the gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. And he was talking specifically about his spiritual plans for the Jews. That's what he talks about in the New Testament, God's plan to bring spiritual awakening to the Jewish people. And he says God's never going to change his mind about that. That's why when you see these Christian groups, you run into these so-called evangelical groups that are basically anti-Israel. I mean, they're virtually anti-Semitic. They're hostile toward Israel and very sympathetic toward the Palestinians. Now, as far as the Palestinians are concerned, the problem I've got with them is they're trying to kill Israelis. They're trying to kill innocent civilians. They're dropping bombs on innocent civilians in Israel all the time. That's what I got a problem with. They're Muslims that want to kill Jews because they are Jewish, and I got a problem with that. And I don't see how anybody who is motivated by fairness and humanitarian impulse cannot have a problem with that. Therefore, you got to resist that part of the Palestinian agenda. We've got to stand against that because it's innocent Israel. It wouldn't matter if it was Israelis, but it's particularly acute for us because it's Israelis that are a target of that kind of hatred and that kind of vitriol. And if we understand that God's calling on the Jewish people, that they are still his chosen people, that he's going to redeem them one day, that they've got a massive spiritual awakening ahead of them in their future, then we must spiritually, we must socially, we must culturally, we must politically, as a Christian nation, we must stand with Israel. Focal Point AFR Talk. We'll be back after the news with a second hour. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Focal Point AFR Talk.